Spill everything right on her head. Julian Cross said with a microphone to everyone's hearing at the Christmas party. 1,000 guests watched as his mistress lifted the bowl higher, while his wife stood before them, 6 months pregnant, frozen in place, quietly asking him to stop. But she received the shock of his life before she could move as her dress was already soaked. Julian smiled as his pregnant wife stood there, soaked and exposed, in the middle of their Christmas party. That was the moment Evelyn realized she was completely alone. Or so she thought. Because what Julian didn't know, what no one in that room knew, was that someone had already seen everything. And seconds later, 3 men who controlled more wealth than anyone in that ballroom combined were already on their way. 3 brothers. Her brothers. And they weren't coming to talk or negotiate with anyone. Before we continue, let me ask you something. Where in the world are you watching from right now? Drop your location in the comments. We love seeing how far these stories travel. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe, because if stories about betrayal, family loyalty, and justice that arrives right on time move you, then this one is going to stay with you. The glass bowl tipped before Evelyn fully understood what was happening. Cold punch ran through her hair and down her shoulders, soaking into her dress and clinging to her skin. She struggled to let out a breath, more surprised than anything else. The room went quiet for half a second, then the laughter came. Her hand went straight to her stomach, protective without thinking. The baby kicked, sharp and sudden, which scared her more than the punch ever could. Screens glowed around her and red recording lights blinked on. "Careful," Julian said casually, like this was clumsy timing instead of cruelty. "You'll spill it." Lena Vale stood there with the empty bowl still raised, eyes bright, breathing fast. She glanced at Julian, waiting. "Do it," Julian said, louder now, letting the room hear him. "Finish it. Show everyone." The last drops slid down Evelyn's neck. The dress she'd spent weeks choosing. Evelyn blinked once. Then again. The band had stopped. She could hear the hum of the lights, the low murmur of voices, the sticky sweetness drying against her skin. She felt exposed in a way that had nothing to do with the dress. "Julian," she said. Her voice came out quieter than she meant. "Please." He didn't step toward her, and he didn't lower his voice either. "We talked about this," he said, like they were alone. "You picked tonight. Don't make it worse." "Make what worse?" she asked, and then stopped. Her chest tightened. She tried again. "We're having a baby." Julian laughed quickly. "And?" He shrugged. "This is a celebration. Don't turn it into a scene." Lena set the bowl down and smoothed her dress, moving closer to Julian, resting a hand on his arm as if Evelyn wasn't even there. "I told you," she said lightly. "She's always emotional." Something in Evelyn went still. She had begged before. Explained. Waited. Compromised. She'd called it patience, or maybe she'd called it love. Standing there now, watched and dripping, she understood it hadn't mattered at all. "I won't beg you any more," she said. The calm in her own voice surprised her. Julian frowned, not hurt, just annoyed. He leaned closer, finally lowering his voice. "You're embarrassing yourself." She met his eyes. "You already did that." The silence that followed said it all. Julian straightened and lifted his glass. "Well," he said, smiling again. "Let's not let a little drama ruin Christmas." The doors at the back of the ballroom opened. No announcement. No warning. Just a shift. 3 men walked in dark coats without rushing, with their expressions calm and unreadable. Evelyn didn't see them at first. She was staring at the floor, steadying her breathing, trying to stop her hands from shaking. She noticed the quiet before she understood it, the way laughter died and the way phones slowly lowered. A shadow crossed her feet and then warmth. A jacket settled over her shoulders. The familiar scent pulled a sound from her chest before she could stop it. So she looked up instantly. Nathan Crosswell was already watching her. Although not furious. Just there. "It's okay," he said softly, the way he had when she was little and storms rattled the windows. "I've got you." Her throat closed. "I'm sorry," she whispered out of habit. He shook his head once. "We'll talk about it later." Reed was at her side, steadying her elbow. Caleb stood a step back, and his eyes moving through the room like he was already 10 steps ahead. Julian finally found his voice. "Who the hell?" Nathan turned, unhurried. "We're taking my sister home." Julian scoffed. "This is a private event." Caleb glanced up from his phone. "Not anymore." Evelyn didn't hear what followed. Reed guided her toward the doors and she caught one last look at Julian, confusion sliding into fear, before she finally turned and walked away. Outside, the city glittered in a unique way and they made their way to the convoy they came with. A doctor was already waiting right in the car, and they asked her some question to know her state of health. Evelyn answered without thinking. Her phone buzzed with messages from people she didn't know as they reached out to her in sympathy. Curiosity. Judgment. She turned it face down. Nathan started the car. They pulled away. For the first time that night, Evelyn felt safe enough to breathe. Inside the ballroom, Julian tried to laugh. "This is ridiculous," he said, turning back to the crowd. "Let's reset. Music." But no one moved. Security stayed where they were while the servers avoided his eyes. Lena's hand slipped from his arm. Caleb's voice came calmly. "We need the room quiet." Julian bristled. "You don't get to." "I do," Caleb said. "As of an hour ago." Reed stepped forward. "You should sit down." Julian didn't. Nathan spoke again. "What happened here will be addressed." And with that, Julian's smile finally broke. "What is this?" Julian demanded, sharpness creeping into his voice. "Some kind of stunt?" Caleb slid his phone into his jacket pocket and looked at him. "No," he said. "This is the end of something." Lena took a step back. "Julian," she whispered, "maybe we should go." Julian shook her off without looking at her. "Stay where you are." Around them, people suddenly found reasons not to look up. No one wanted attention now, and no one wanted to be part of this. Nathan stepped forward, calm and unhurried, stopping right in front of Julian. "You humiliated my pregnant sister in public." Julian scoffed, but it came out thin. "She embarrassed herself. You don't know what's going on." "We know enough," Reed said. "You think you can walk in here and threaten me?" Julian snapped. "I have investors. I have partners. This city runs on trust," Reed finished. "Yes. We're aware." Something clinked near the back of the room. Caleb pulled his phone out again, glancing at the screen. "The live stream's already everywhere," he said calmly. "Once people start watching, it moves fast." Julian went still. "Live stream." Lena's face drained. "You didn't." "I did," Caleb said. "Your friend near the bar started it." She didn't realize how far it would spread. Julian looked around. Phones were up again now, and no one was laughing anymore. This wasn't entertainment. This was documentation. "You can't do this," Julian said, lowering his voice, maybe trying a different angle. "We can talk. Evelyn and I are done," Nathan said. Julian opened his mouth, and then stopped. Whatever he saw in Nathan's expression made him think better of arguing. One of the security guards shifted and stepped forward. "Sir," he said cautiously to Nathan, "we'll need to." Caleb turned his phone just enough for the guard to see the screen. The guard's posture changed. He nodded once and stepped back. Lena let out a strained laugh. "This is insane. You can't just buy your way out of everything." Caleb met her eyes. "We're not buying anything. We're letting people see what was already there." Reed looked at her. His voice wasn't raised, just steady. "You helped him. You knew." She straightened. "I'm a professional." "Then you'll be treated like one," Reed said. Julian's breathing had gone shallow. "You think ruining me fixes this," he said. "You think this makes you heroes?" Nathan didn't answer right away. He looked past Julian, scanning the room. "Everyone here saw what happened," he said. "Some of you laughed. Some of you recorded it. None of you stopped it." No one interrupted at this point. "This isn't about being heroes," Nathan continued. "It's about accountability." Sirens sounded somewhere outside, although distant, but it was clear enough. Julian's head snapped toward the doors. You called the police, he asked. Caleb nodded. Among others. Lena grabbed Julian's arm. You said this was handled. Julian rounded on her. This is your fault. Her expression shifted as something finally landed. You promised. Reed stepped between them. That's enough. The doors opened again. This time, people moved aside without being told. In no time, an officer who was on a uniform stopped in front of Julian. Sir, we need to ask you a few questions. Julian let out a confused laugh. About what? The officer glanced at his tablet. We'll start with fraud. Julian reached for the table, knocking a chair over as his knees gave way for that. Lena stepped back as if distance might save her. This is a mistake, Julian said, panic breaking through. Evelyn will fix this. She always does. Nathan's voice didn't rise. She's done fixing you. The handcuffs closed on his wrist. Lena watched as Julian was led away. When an officer turned toward her, she finally moved, straightening her shoulders and lifting her chin in composure. This is harassment, she said. I want my lawyer. Reed nodded. You'll have one. Outside, Evelyn stared through the car window. She didn't need to see Julian to know what was happening. She felt it in the quiet, in the way the night seemed to pause. Nathan caught her eyes in the mirror. The doctor says you're fine, he said. Both of you. She nodded, resting her hand on her stomach. Thank you. For what? For coming. We never stopped, Reed said from the passenger seat. Caleb leaned forward slightly. When you're ready, people will ask questions. You don't have to answer any of them. Evelyn swallowed. I thought being strong meant doing it alone. Nathan met her gaze. Sometimes strength is knowing when you don't have to. The car pulled away, sealing off the night that changed everything as Evelyn couldn't wait to see how prepared her brothers were to go all out for her, because she was beginning to feel the vibes. If you're still watching, take a moment to like this video. It helps more people find stories like this. And if you've ever wished someone would show up for you the way Evelyn's brothers did, leave a comment below. Your story matters too. The car moved through the city as streetlights passed over the windshield, one after another. Evelyn leaned her head back, the exhaustion finally catching up with her now that the adrenaline was gone. Her dress was still damp beneath Nathan's jacket, but she barely noticed. Her hand rested over her stomach, focused on the steady movement under her palm. That was all that mattered. Which was the fact that the baby was okay. They reached Nathan's penthouse in no time. The elevator ride was smooth and quiet. When the doors opened, she felt warm immediately. A housekeeper approached them, concern written all over her face. Nathan gave a brief nod. Tea, he said. And something comfortable for her to change into. Evelyn sank onto the sofa. Reed crouched in front of her, checking her shoes, her ankles carefully. Any dizziness? He asked. She shook her head. Just tired. Caleb stood near the window. His phone buzzed again. He silenced it without checking the screen. This is spreading fast, he said. Faster than anyone can control. The footage is everywhere. Evelyn closed her eyes. I don't want to see it. You won't, Nathan said. We'll make sure of that. The doctor that had followed them home ran a little physical examination on Evelyn. When she finally left, confirming again that both Evelyn and the baby were fine, something inside Evelyn eased. She hadn't realized how tightly she'd been holding herself together until then. Later wards, she changed into the clothes that was brought for her and returned to the living room, curling her feet on the sofa. Nathan sat across from her, elbows resting on his knees, watching her with an expression that wasn't anger. It was concern, edged with something like regret. I should have listened, Evelyn said quietly. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Back then. Reed answered first. You did what you thought you had to do. I chose him, she said. I cut you off. I said things I can't take back. Caleb turned from the window. You chose what you believed was love, he said. That doesn't make you wrong. Her throat tightened. It feels like it does. Nathan leaned back slightly and exhaled. We warned you because we were scared. Not because we wanted control. I thought you didn't trust me. We trusted you, Reed said. We just didn't trust him. Silence settled again, heavier now, but not uncomfortable. Caleb's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, hesitating a little. There's something you should know, he said. Julian's been detained and formal charges are coming. Evelyn nodded. She felt nothing. No relief. No satisfaction. Just distance. And Lena? She asked. She left with counsel, Caleb said. Her firm's already released a statement distancing themselves. Evelyn looked down at her hands. I don't want revenge. You don't need to want anything right now, Nathan said. But people will expect something, she said. A response. Reed shrugged. Then they'll be disappointed. The next morning, headlines multiplied, clips replayed and opinions stacked on top of opinions. Evelyn didn't see any of it. Nathan had made sure information was filtered, staff, security, even friends. And with regards to that, her phone stayed quiet. She spent most of the day wrapped in blankets, sipping tea, sleeping in short stretches. Each time she woke, one of her brothers was nearby just to make sure that she got all the attention she needed. By evening, she felt steady enough to sit at the kitchen island. Reed sliced fruit for her while Caleb scanned updates, sharing only what mattered. Julian's board held an emergency meeting, Caleb said. They've suspended him. Evelyn swallowed. That was everything to him. It doesn't excuse what he did, Nathan said. I know, she replied quickly. Then softer, I just spent years thinking I helped build that life. You helped build something, Reed said. Just not what you thought. A knock sounded at the door and everyone paused. I'll get it, Nathan said. A woman stood in the hallway, clutching her coat, her eyes red. Evelyn recognized her immediately. Sophie. Sophie hesitated, and then nodded. I wasn't sure you'd want to see me. Evelyn stood, her heart beating faster. You were the one who started the stream. Sophie winced. I didn't mean for it to explode like that. I just... Evelyn got close to her and hugged her. Sophie froze, and then broke, crying into her shoulder. Thank you, Evelyn whispered. Sophie pulled back, stunned. For what? For calling for help, Evelyn said. I thought you were just watching. I couldn't, Sophie said. I couldn't stand there and do nothing. Nathan spoke gently. You did the right thing. Sophie nodded, wiping her eyes. I should go. I just needed to see you. After she left, Evelyn sat back down, and couldn't help but to say the thoughts going through her mind. I wasn't as alone as I thought. No, Reed said. You never were. 2 days later, Evelyn stepped outside for the first time. The city felt louder and sharper now. She wore sunglasses and stayed close as Nathan guided her into the car. Where are we going? She asked. Somewhere quiet. They drove off, and when they finally stopped, Evelyn looked around. It's beautiful, she said. Nathan smiled slightly. You used to love it here. She had. Summers running through fields with her brothers close behind. She hadn't realized how much she'd missed it until now. They walked slowly. The air was cool to calm one's nerves as Reed hung back, giving her space. Caleb stepped aside to take a call. Evelyn rested her hands on the fence. I was afraid of needing anyone, she said. I didn't want to be the little sister who had to be rescued. Nathan stood beside her, sending his gaze to her. Needing people doesn't make you weak. I know that now. You were always strong, he said. You just lost sight of it. She let out a small but real smile. I don't want to disappear again. You won't, Reed said, stepping closer. I don't need you to stop me, she said. I just need you to walk with me. Nathan looked at her, surprised, and then smiled. Deal. With all of that feeling, Evelyn felt excited to where she belonged at the moment. The fallout didn't come with noise. It came with distance. Julian sat alone in a small conference room the next afternoon, his phone face down. After a moment, his lawyer arrived late. Tell me this can be fixed, Julian said in a rough tone as soon as the door closed. He tried again. Tell me this is just noise. The lawyer set a folder on the table and pushed it forward. You need to stop talking to anyone, he said. Including me. Especially the press. Julian stared at the folder. That's not an answer. It is, the lawyer replied. Just not the one you want. Julian's phone buzzed. He flipped it over, hopeful for half a second, then stopped. One message from the board. Another request for a statement he couldn't give. This is because of them, Julian said while his anger kept rising. Her brothers. They're pulling strings. The lawyer shook his head. They didn't make you do what you did. Julian stood and paced. You don't get it. Evelyn handled things. She smoothed everything over. She protected you, the lawyer said. Until she stopped. Julian froze. She'll come back, he said finally, although quieter now. We're married. The lawyer closed the folder. You should prepare yourself for the chance that she won't. Across the city, Evelyn sat at the kitchen table, a cup of tea cooling between her hands. She hadn't slept much. Every time she closed her eyes, it seemed she saw the bowl tilt and she felt the cold again. Nathan sat across from her, holding a book he hadn't turned a page of. Reed leaned against the counter and Caleb stood by the door, with his jacket already on. I need to go back, Evelyn said. Her three brothers quickly looked up. Back where? Reed asked. To the apartment, she said. I need my things. Nathan's jaw tightened. We can have everything brought here. I know, she said. But I need to go myself. Caleb considered it. We'll secure the building. That's not what I mean, she said. I need to see it. To finish it. Nathan studied her. The resolve was there in a quiet and steady manner, the same one she'd shown when she stopped begging at the party. We'll go together, he said. They arrived late morning. Inside, nothing had changed as it seemed like a life paused, waiting for someone who wasn't coming back. Evelyn moved slowly until she got inside. In the bedroom, she opened the closet and looked at rows of clothes she'd chosen carefully, believing they meant security. Nathan stood at the door. Take what you want. She shook her head. I don't want most of it. She packed one suitcase which includes her essentials. But she abruptly paused halfway. I wanted this to work, she said softly. It still will, Reed said. She nodded. Just not the way I thought. When they were done, they left the apartment immediately and headed back home. Julian called that night while they were already back. Evelyn stared at the phone while it rang. Nathan watched her but said nothing. She answered. Evelyn, Julian said, feeling some level of relief. Thank God. I've been trying to reach you. I know, she said calmly, but that actually took him unaware. We need to talk, he rushed. This has gone too far. Your brothers. Stop, she said. This isn't about them. There was a brief pause. Then what is it about? He finally asked. Me. He laughed, softly. You're upset. Anyone would be. But you're letting this get out of hand. I'm not, she said. I'm stepping out of it. You can't just leave, he snapped. You owe me. I don't owe you anything. You embarrassed me, he said at last after a little silence. In front of everyone. You humiliated me, she replied. While I was pregnant. Don't exaggerate. She cut the call off while he was still on the line. The room felt her vibes at once. Caleb exhaled. That was the right decision. I know, Evelyn said. The days that followed were a whole lot of activities, appointments, lawyers, doctors. Decisions she made only when she felt steady enough. Nathan explained options without pushing. Reed stayed with her through every appointment. Caleb handled the social and outside world. One afternoon, Evelyn sat alone in the living room and realized something that surprised her. She wasn't afraid of what Julian would do. Not cautious or afraid of what came next. With the thought of that, she called Sophie. I wanted to thank you again, Evelyn said. And I wanted to ask you something. Anything. Sophie replied. Will you help me tell the truth? Evelyn asked. Not putting anything up. Just what actually happened. There was a pause. Then Sophie finally replied, yes. Evelyn smiled softly. Julian watched the coverage from his apartment. He barely recognized himself as he felt defenseless and smaller than he remembered being. Over time, analysts replayed clips. Friends stopped calling and investors pulled away. A message came through from Lena. "Don't contact me again." He set the phone down and stared at the wall, wondering for the first time if any of it had been real. That night, Evelyn stood in front of the mirror, her hand resting on her stomach. "We're going to be okay," she said quietly. This time, it didn't feel like hope. It felt like something she could keep. If you've stayed with this story, take a moment to like the video. It helps more people find stories like this. And if you've ever had to choose yourself after being treated like you didn't matter, share that in the comments. You're not alone. The truth didn't arrive through a press conference or a statement written by lawyers. It arrived on a quiet afternoon as Evelyn sat at the dining table with Sophie across from her. A recorder was kept between them. Nathan and Reed were in the next room, close enough in case she needed them, far enough to let this belong to her. Caleb had stepped out on purpose. "This part has to be yours," he'd said. And he meant it. Sophie adjusted the recorder. "We can stop any time," she said. "You don't owe anyone this." "I know," Evelyn replied. She paused and then added, "But I want to say it." Sophie pressed record. Evelyn didn't begin with the party. She started at the beginning. The first apartment with the leaky faucet. The nights she believed love meant patience. The way she learned, slowly, to make herself smaller to keep the peace. She spoke plainly. No rehearsing. No dramatizing. No assigning blame. Just the truth as she understood it now. "I thought independence meant cutting myself off from anyone who could help me," she said at one point. "I confused being alone with being strong." Sophie listened without interrupting. When Evelyn reached to the point of the party's night, she didn't dwell so much on the humiliation as she didn't need to. The facts were already enough. The silence afterward said more than anger ever could. "And then my brothers arrived," Evelyn said. A small smile crossed her face. "Not to punish anyone. Just to take me home." When her voice finally wavered, Sophie reached forward and stopped the recorder. "That's enough," she said gently. Evelyn exhaled a long breath, she felt all the way down. "Thank you for trusting me," Sophie replied. The piece went live the next morning. It wasn't flashy. No looping clips. No commentary stacked on top of commentary. Just Evelyn's words, uninterrupted, paired with a single still image. But it spread anyway. People recognized themselves in it. In the waiting. In the silence. In the moment when staying quiet stopped feeling like a choice. Evelyn didn't read most of the responses. Nathan filtered them, passing along only the ones that mattered. Messages from people who said they felt seen. From women who said they'd chosen differently because of it. From men who said they'd never thought about what silence could do. Julian's name appeared less and less before everyone. The legal process moved forward on its own schedule. Papers signed. Meetings attended. The marriage dissolved quietly, without the drama Julian had once promised would follow her everywhere. He tried to reach her again, through intermediaries, through messages that framed regret as inconvenience. But Evelyn didn't respond. One evening, she stood with Nathan on the balcony, taking a look at the city. "I thought I'd feel more," she admitted. "Anger or maybe vindication." Nathan leaned beside her. "And instead, I just feel finished." He nodded. That's usually what healing looks like. The baby kicked, firm enough to make Evelyn laugh. "She's already opinionated." "She gets that from you," Reed said from behind them. Evelyn smiled. The quiet sounds of her brothers moving through the apartment, which were ordinary and unremarkable, felt like something she'd once believed she didn't deserve. The final hearing passed before anyone knew it. Evelyn attended remotely, camera off, listening as the judge spoke. When it ended, she closed her laptop and sat still. "That's it," she said. Caleb looked up from his phone. "It is." "What now?" she asked. Nathan didn't hesitate. "Whatever you want." The answer used to scare her. But now it felt like room to breathe. She started her prenatal care small. Morning walks. Prenatal yoga. Lunches with Sophie. She set up a modest office in a spare room, not to prove anything, but because she wanted to build something that belonged to her. She volunteered quietly, helping people navigate separation and recovery, never attaching her name. Over time, she started getting appreciation messages from those she helped with regards to that. Julian moved out. He sold the car. He stopped attending the events that had once defined him. In interviews few months later, he spoke about growth and lessons learned, although he was careful not to mention names. But that was late because the audience had already moved on. Evelyn had too. Not in bitterness, but in clarity. Few days later, she went into labor and she finally gave birth as the brothers had rushed her to the hospital. The moment her daughter was born, Nathan held her hand and Reed stayed close. Caleb paced once, then stopped, eyes bright with a mix of fear and joy he didn't hide. When the baby cried, it was all strong and demanding. Evelyn related all of that as joy that she couldn't compare to anything in the world. They placed her daughter in her arms. "She's beautiful," Reed said softly. Evelyn nodded. "Her name is Mira." Nathan smiled. "It fits." Later, Evelyn rested against the pillows with Mira asleep on her chest. Her brothers sat nearby, not crowding, just present. "I want her to know," Evelyn said, barely above a whisper, "that she never has to earn love." Caleb leaned forward. "She will." Evelyn closed her eyes, listening to the steady breathing around her, which she knew were support from her brothers. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel late to her own life. She felt exactly on time. Morning came softly. Evelyn woke before anyone else, a habit she'd picked up during the final weeks of pregnancy. Mira slept against her chest, small fists tucked in, breathing steadily and calmly. Evelyn didn't move right away. She stayed there, feeling the aura of her cute daughter, the gentle rise and fall of her breath that supported her in a way nothing else ever had. And it felt all real. Nathan showed up in the doorway a few minutes later, and held a cup of coffee in his hand, then he said softly, "You're up early." Evelyn smiled. She decided. He crossed the room and sat close to her. "How are you feeling?" "Tired," Evelyn said. Then, after a moment, "But good. Different." "Different how?" She thought about it. "Like I'm not bracing for something bad to happen." Nathan nodded. He understood perfectly what she meant. Reed and Caleb joined them soon after. Mira woke briefly, fussed, then settled as Evelyn rocked her gently. "This," Caleb said quietly, watching them, "beats any headline." Evelyn looked up. "Are they still coming?" "They will," he said. "For a while. But they don't get to control it anymore." She nodded. "I don't want to be defined by that night." "You won't be," Reed said. "You'll be defined by what comes after." Evelyn looked down at Mira. "I want her to grow up knowing she has choices. And people who show up." "She will," Nathan said. Weeks passed. Then months. Marked by moments that would have once slipped by unnoticed. Myra's first laugh caught Evelyn so off guard she cried. The first night Mira slept longer than 3 hours felt like a gift. The first time Evelyn pushed the stroller through the park alone, she realized she wasn't scanning faces anymore. People still recognized her sometimes. A glance that lasted longer, and sometimes a quiet whisper. But the looks were different now, as it had less curiosity. But more understanding. One afternoon, a woman stopped her outside a cafe, hesitating before speaking. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said. "I left last week. Your story helped me a lot." Evelyn felt the excitement tightening in her chest for the fact that at least her story helped someone out there. "I'm glad you're safe," she said, and meant it. She never saw Julian again. She heard about him, occasionally. A mention here. A brief update there. He faded from her life the way background noise does when you finally notice you can turn it down. On Myra's 6-month birthday, Evelyn hosted a small gathering. Nothing elaborate. No cameras. Just family, a few friends, and laughter that came easily. Nathan held Mira while Reed tried to make her laugh. Caleb wasn't left out either, in joy they shared. At one point, Evelyn stepped back and watched them. Emotion caught her off guard. For years, she believed she had to choose between love and independence. She saw now how false that choice had been. Later, after the party was over, Evelyn stood by the window with Mira asleep in her arms. "I used to think strength meant never needing help," she said softly. Nathan stood beside her. "A lot of people do. I was wrong." He smiled. You learned. Evelyn leaned her head back against his shoulder. Mira stirred, and then settled again. She thought about the party, the noise, the humiliation, the moment she believed she was completely alone. It felt far away now. Not erased. But just no longer in control. She had made a choice that night. Not the one Julian expected. Not the one the crowd assumed. She chose herself. And in doing so, she found something better than the life she thought she wanted. She found her way home. The night settled in quietly. Inside, Evelyn held her daughter close, surrounded by the steady presence of the people who had never stopped choosing her. And this time, she chose them too. If this story stayed with you, take a moment to like the video. It helps more people find stories like this. And if you believe love should never cost you your dignity, share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that remind us what real strength looks like.